Okay, and good evening to everyone out there. It's good to be here another Monday for another edition to of Monday with the Mayor. And as Calvin mentioned, I have several guests that will be on the show today. I want to send out a special shout to one of my listeners that listens on a regular basis, Miss Helen. Good evening to you. And let me say the topic today, of course, is surrounding the pandemic that we're facing around the world. And today we actually had another death to occur as a result of this pandemic. So we want to make sure that we keep that family in our prayers. This pandemic is serious, and we have to continue to practice social distancing in order to make sure that we reduce the spread of this virus in our community. So we have to constantly make sure that we're diligent in slowing down the spread of this virus. Today, we have with us our police chief, Chief Walter Armstrong, and I'm going to let Chief Armstrong say good evening in his own way. Good evening, Chief Armstrong.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and the listening audience, and I'm very happy to be taking a part in what we're trying to get out. This is a very serious message. It's a life and death situation, and we want to do all we can to help convey that information to the public.
Yes, so if you would, Chief, let the audience out there know exactly what's in place as it relates to law enforcement for this pandemic. We know we have the stay home order, we have a curfew. So let's talk a little bit about that, Chief.
Yes, sir. Yes, what we're trying to do is to get the message out to everyone about how important it is that everyone stay put, meaning stay at home. And we also want you to know that this is a very contagious uh, virus. And we know that if you're out playing basketball or if you're out getting together in groups, that is a good chance that you can pass this virus on. And we want to do all we can to prevent that. One of the things that we also want you to remember that although you may be at home, it is not a time to be inviting a lot of guests over because if you start inviting people over to your home from outside, then you may not know who they have come in contact with, so you can wind up infecting your whole family. We have police officers out riding the streets looking for individuals who might be congregating, whether it be at a park, playing basketball, or just getting together, socializing in the parking lot. We're going to confront those individuals, but we're doing it for their safety. So we want the public to work with us to help keep everyone safe because we don't want anyone to fall victim of this. And I can tell you, since this outbreak started, we have had several officers, first responders throughout the country who has fallen ill to this virus, and some of them have even passed away. And we're taking all precautions in terms of the gloves and the masks and things of that nature. So even with that, again, a lot of officers have fallen victim to this virus. So certainly this thing is affecting everyone, and even going to the stores. If you can just send one individual to get everything you need, we certainly encourage you to do so. So just know that this is something that we're having to go through with. Hopefully, sooner or later, we will lift some of these restrictions. But until we do that, and we're going to be listening to CDC and the local and the state and the federal government to determine when that might be. So we're going to have officers continue to canvass the city, the businesses included. This is all being done in the name of public safety.
Okay, Chief, thank you so much for that because, this week is supposed to be a pretty bad week as it relates to this particular virus and the spread of the virus. The CDC based on a model that was created by the University of Washington, predict that this week is going to be a pretty bad week. So we should actually be reaching a spike throughout the country and even possibly here locally. So it's very important for people to comply with the orders and the curfews that we put in place. And it's not just for their safety, but it's for the safety of everybody, because this virus spreads and it impacts everybody. And you know, one of the group of individuals that's out there that's working hard every day um, are our medical professionals. You know, people in our medical institutions, doctors, nurses, and all of the other support groups in these. So, you know, they have to deal with this and confront this virus. So, the more that we can comply in terms of social distancing and so forth, we can reduce the spread, which actually will have a lesser impact on everybody, our first responders, such as our firefighters, our police officers, and other first responders, but also our medical professionals that work hard every day as it relates to this pandemic. Chief?
And Mayor, if I can add, I will like for the community to know that for the most part, everyone is listening to the message that's being conveyed. They're staying in. We can tell by the call volume that we are not receiving now as a result of people staying inside. So we're very appreciative of that, because at the end of the day, we all would benefit from it. Everyone the mayor just mentioned, healthcare, first responders, because whenever we have to engage someone, obviously we're putting ourselves at risk. And of course, if you wind up, having to go and get medical care, then you're putting the healthcare workers at risk at the same time. So again, just know that people are listening, and we're asking this entire community to continue to work with us, because we can be a trendsetter down here in Natchez by making sure that we get it right.
You know, we also have on the call with us today um, Chief Green. Chief Ventris Green is the chief of the Natchez Fire Department, and he has been working closely with a lot of the businesses that provide essential services, such as our grocery stores, etc. So I'll let Chief Green, if you don't mind, will you come in and say good evening and offer words of wisdom out there to our audience, Chief?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Natchez and Adams County. Yes. First of all, I would like to thank the mayor for having the vision to get the ball rolling. As a lot of you all might know, Natchez was the first city to start a COVID-19 task force. And by doing it, they gave all of us a lot of knowledge that has came into play now, and I think it's been very substantial in helping us not have a peak like we see in some of these other cities. And one of my jobs is, like the mayor said, is going around to different businesses, making sure they're in compliance with the rules and the orders that we have put in place, making sure, reminding people to social distance, to stay apart, to look how many people are congregating inside these businesses in general. And one of the businesses that has took it up to another level to help work out was Walmart. And by cutting back on the people who were in there, only using 200 carts, which means that they only going to usually have 2 to 4 people in that square facility, which Walmart can social distance 6 feet, almost 1,000 plus people. So you can look at that. They spraying down their carts and things like that. And as you know, with all first responders, we are about life safety, and all of us on a constant day-to-day basis, we talking to the federal agencies, the state agencies, local agencies, and we just trying to make sure you guys are safe. And as the mayor said, and the chief said, if we could weather this storm, if we could weather this peak, I know a lot of you all getting anxious, but you got to hold tight until we can weather this storm, because it's about sheltering in place until everybody in the county, city are, as I would say, free from this pandemic.
Well, you're right on point, Chief Green. It's so important for people, and I know a lot of people are getting anxious and becoming possibly impatient. But if they can hold tight for a little while longer, we'll be able to get through this pandemic, get the spread of the virus reduced. But at the current moment, we have got to make sure that people continue to social distance, to try to remain home except when they go out for essentials or to go out and exercise, so that we can get uh, this back to a safe zone. And hopefully, well, we know somewhere in the near future we'll get back to normal in terms of this virus reduction in our community. You know, one of the things, Chief, that we talked about today in the task force that we will be putting out there tomorrow is that we will strongly urge people when they go out for essential things that they need to wear some type of covering, such as a mask, a scarf, or a bandana, in order to reduce the spread of this virus.
Correct. Yes. Yes, Mr. Mayor. What we have found out that this virus is unlike one that we have encountered before, where it's adaptable. At first, the signs, you had to be excruciating coughing, high fever, excruciating pain. Now we see some people don't even exhibit those signs, asymptomatic. So you could be walking around as healthy as I don't know what, but you could have this disease and don't even know it. In the next couple of days, you could be on life support. So, as I said, we want everybody to look at the next person just like they have this disease. And by doing that, it'll make you coherent of your surroundings by not touching your face, touching your eyes, not sanitizing twice a day, if not more, and keeping your mask on, and some people even wearing the glove. And that'll be a sign to remind you and remind the next person to do that. And that's how we're going to, it's going to take a community to get past this, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chief Green, and you said it well. And Chief Armstrong, thank you for your words of wisdom out there. It's important for people to be safe so that we can get through this storm. And this week is supposed to be a pretty bad week uh, that they're predicting across the country as it relates to the spread of this virus. But if we stay strong here in Natchez and continue to do the right thing, we possibly will be able to pull through this. And again, as I announced when we opened up the show today, you know, we lost a third victim to the coronavirus here in this community, and we send our prayers to that family. So it's so important for people to know that this is serious and it's real. Any final words, Chiefs?
Yes, Chief Armstrong. I just want to encourage the public that which I hope you use the gloves and the mask and things of that nature. But if you use gloves, for an example, properly to dispose of those items in a trash can. What we have learned in some of the other cities, individuals are leaving the store and dropping them in the parking lot where someone else has to come along and pick those items up. So please put them in your trunk, put them in a plastic bag, bring them home, and probably dispose of them in a trash can so we won't run the risk of spreading whatever may have been on those gloves to someone else.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Chief. I know in Jackson they've been facing that, and that's been a major problem in a lot of the shopping centers when people go to get their grocery. Chief Green, any final words from you?
Uh, yes, just stay safe, stay inside if you can, in general, uh, until this thing breaks. And remember, we only as strong as our weakest link. So let's all put forth the effort for this and so get back to our normal lives, get the business back open and all the infrastructure back going. And keep God
Okay, and
above all.
there you go. And there you heard it from both our uh, police chief, Chief Walter Armstrong, and our fire chief for the city of Natchez, Chief Ventris Green. Thanks to both of you for all that you do for our community. And God bless you and your families.
Thank you, Mr.
And next, thank you. And next guest that we have on the show today is our local economic development director, and that is an agency that we call Natchez Inc. We have the executive director, Chandler Russ, and he's going to talk to everyone out there about, uh, what's available economically uh, for people, especially businesses and small businesses that have been impacted as a result of this pandemic. Uh, Welcome, Chandler.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate you having me on the show to talk about the issues that are in front of us today and for the foreseeable future. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, it's good to have you on the show today. And, and we all know as a result of this pandemic, it's impacting not just Natchez, Adams County, but every city across the country economically, because a lot of businesses have not been able to operate as a result of this pandemic. And I know the federal government, they put some things in place that have possibly trickled down to local communities that can help small businesses and other businesses out there. Can you talk a little bit about that and let my audience know what's available, what can help them, and so forth?
Absolutely. So, Mayor, as you're exactly right, we have the worldwide pandemic going on, and we firmly feel that the economic the other side of that really we hadn't talked a lot about because we've been focusing on getting the pandemic past us, but the economic crisis that this has brought to our nation and to our world right now is has the potential to be as equally harmful as the pandemic itself, just from poverty numbers and everything else, and jobs and all of that. And so the federal government responded with a federal stimulus of $2 trillion. That's with a T, and probably if there's anything to encourage business owners and those that are employing people, whether they're self-employed or they have employees, is the first thing that we want to encourage them to do is to do the Paycheck Protection Program. I mean, all of your local banks, all of your accounting firms have been just uh, swamped helping business and industry fill out these applications. And what it does is it allows for a forgivable loan as long as 75%. So let's say you were borrowing $100,000 and 75% of that was in payroll. So 75,000 was in payroll, and you continued to keep those employees or brought them back and continue to bring them back to work. That loan will forgive over that period of time, and it's vital and important. That is a kind of a pool of money. There's about $350 billion of the $2 trillion that the
government put out that is on a first come, first served basis. And so we right now are frantically trying to get all of our business and industry to participate in that program. And so I would encourage you to definitely um, see if you've got a banker, um, and to contact them and definitely talk with them about the Paycheck Protection Program, and or if you have an accountant or CPA, I would encourage you to talk with them about getting that paperwork. It's fairly simple, straightforward paperwork, but I do encourage you to use your banker and or your accountant to get that information filled out, because it has some payroll numbers that are going to be required in order to put in there from a year over year type standpoint. And so it is important that we do that. So that's a number one item that's out there. Also, in that same package, that there's the economic injury disaster loan program that is also out there, and it can go up to nearly $10 million as far as the amount of money that can be borrowed under that program in order to help sustain business and industry during that. It is a very low interest loan, as it can go as low as 0.05%, all the way up to, just depending on the what's being financed and what the program is, but it goes anywhere from about 3.75 all the way down to 0.05. So very low interest monies that are out there that are available to help along those lines, and I'd encourage everybody to look at those. Additionally, if you have questions, feel free to contact us. Either we're working remotely as everybody now, and so my cell phone 601-870-7809. You're welcome to call me directly or get me through my email at cruss@natchezinc.com. I'd also encourage you to go to our website at www.natchezinc.com, and we have a lot of information there that has the links where you can literally click on the information, and it'll take you to the SBA website and give you some additional information in that neighborhood. So the ton of information. The U.S. Treasury is continuing to write rules and regulations on all of these programs. So some of it is changing from day to day as they continue to learn what is needed in the delivery of these funds that are out there. And so we try to keep up with that and update the website accordingly as that information changes.
Well, Chandler, I certainly appreciate uh, you being on the show today to provide the listening audience out there with this very important information about these programs that are available. Um, because, as I said earlier, once this pandemic is over, we've got to be able to recover economically uh, here in our very own community, Natchez, Adams County. And of course, the same thing is going to be going on all across the country. And I know the first program that you mentioned, it is a first come, first serve. So it's important for people out there that are listening that they get on top of this immediately. And you said you have information on this on your website at Natchez Inc.
We do, and so they can go and go to our website, click on latest information, and it will pop up the that information, and they should be able to go and click on Paycheck Protection Program. So it is the SBA Paycheck Protection Program is what it is. You can actually, Google it if that's easier for you. What we want is we want our businesses, our industry, our people in our region to take advantage of this offering from the CARES Act and take full advantage of it, because I believe we're going to, given the unique situation of Natchez and how our economy works, I believe we're definitely going to need to have that stimulus monies in place in order to carry us through to continue to fight the economic pandemic, that side of it throughout the next several months and ahead of us. So it's going to be tremendous. The last thing, Mayor, I just wanted to point out is that we are putting together an economic recovery task force that's made up of all the industry sectors, business and industry sectors, across, trying to get as many of those across the areas as possible. And what we know about Natchez from a history standpoint is that when we've gone into like a recession like 2008, or we've had an oil bust like we're currently in now, also we've always kind of been slow to go into recession, but we've even been slower coming out. I mean, and so we were last ones in and last ones out. And given the nature of this pandemic and this economic the way that this is affecting our business industry, it's very different from the past, and so we don't have the time to we must recover faster and quicker than we have in past, and so we definitely need to make sure that we've got a plan in place, and let's hopefully what we'll do, and I suspect that group will be reaching out beyond in subcommittee form to other members of the community to help and assist, but we've got to have a good strategy in place for recovery on the other side of this the health pandemic.
Well, Chandler, I'm glad to hear that a task force is being formed for the economic recovery of our community, because we definitely we've got work to do in terms of recovering from the pandemic economically. So I really appreciate you organizing that. And if someone's out there listening, Chandler, who might be willing and who might have the expertise and experience that may want to be a part of your task force or a subcommittee of one of the committees of your task force, they can reach out to you. Correct, Chandler?
That's correct. Send me an email, and so our first meeting is this Wednesday, and so it's kind of an organizational meeting of the original group that we've tried to put together, and hopefully from there we would definitely be reaching out in a subcommittee format to other members in the community at large. So definitely, please give me you can shoot me an email again at C Russ. So it's my first initial of my name and then my last name, Russ at natchezinc.com, and you can catch me that way. It's probably the best way to get me during these times.
And if they can't remember that email address, they can just simply go to Natchez Inc. website and actually click on the email there and pick it up off the website. Correct, Chandler?
That's right. That's exactly right, too, Mary. Thank you.
And also the number at the office, is it rolling over to someone since you guys are working remotely?
It rolls over to Amy Gatto, who's our communications manager, and so it's 601-445-0288 is that number if you want to try us there. And definitely feel free to use whatever any means that you want to use to contact us.
Okay, so anyone out there who's interested in serving on a task force or a subcommittee of the committees that they form in the task force, just simply reach out to Chandler. You can simply email him or call the office, and they will get that information over to Chandler. Um, and again, Chandler, I really appreciate you coming on the air. Uh, to inform the public of this very important information as it relate to us recovering economically from this pandemic. You know, it's important for people out there to make sure that, you know, you take this information that, you know, we've experienced from this pandemic and pass that on to your children and let them pass it on to their children, that we learn from this pandemic so that, you know, down the road, 50 years from now or 30 years from now or even possibly longer, when another pandemic can come along, uh, that people will be better prepared to know how to handle a pandemic, because you've got to be proactive and how to recover economically from these pandemics. Uh, Pandemics have existed in the past. We've had bubonic plague, yellow fever, Spanish flu, and others. Uh, we're faced with the coronavirus today, and there will be pandemics that will occur in the future. I mean, it's just a natural phenomena of what happens uh, on this earth, that we have pandemics that occur. So it's important that we learn from it and we take this experience and use it for future pandemics so that we can deal with them much better than we are today. So Chandler, any final words before we sign off?
No, Mayor, I want to tell you I appreciate your leadership regarding the this COVID-19. The Natchez really was in the forefront and did a fabulous job, and I believe through those efforts, lives and have been saved, and people are well because of the proactive nature of that, and I appreciate it. And please continue to pray for our community and our business community as we go forward, and that we have a good, healthy, and speedy recovery.
Well, Chandler, and I thank you for coming on the air. And you said it there. I mean, it's important for us to pray, and we thank God that we didn't have a tornado that hit us on yesterday. So I am so thankful for that, that we did not have a tornado uh, that affected us. But we had 11 deaths across the state of Mississippi as a result of the tornadic events that occurred. So. Uh, we have to continue to stay prayed up. And every Wednesday at 10 o'clock, I have a moment of prayer in our city. And this week, Reverend Fox from Grace United Methodist Church will provide us with the prayer for our community. Last week, we had Reverend John Scott from Christian Hope that provided us with prayer. And the week prior, we had Reverend Bo Switley from Community Chapel on Morgantown Road. And this week, it will be Reverend Fox that will provide us with our community prayer, and that's Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So, again, thanks to everyone, and I'd like to thank you, Calvin, at WMIS WTYJ, for hosting us this evening. God bless each of you. God bless everybody. Thank you so much. I'm Daryl Grinnell for Monday with the Mayor.